tell us a little bit about your story, Luke, because a couple of years ago you experienced burnout. So how did that happen?
Yeah, caught me by surprise, I have to say. Yeah, and it was something that I definitely would never have expected that I would ever really experience. So I'll give you some context. So a couple of years ago, my kids at that point were 3 and 1, and the housing prices were looking really, really good. So we thought, me and my wife, this would be a really good time for us to move. I'm like, oh, okay, we've never done this before, not properly. We've only ever been first-time buyers in that sense, so we have to sell our house whenever it's a new experience for us. We're looking around, and we got an offer accepted on the first house we looked at. This is incredible, amazing. This has gone really, really smooth. And then it got pulled away from us at the last second. And I was absolutely gutted. I was devastated. And then I thought, well, shrug it off. Let's move on. And this kept happening over a period of months. So imagine you've fallen in love every single month to get dumped. And that's kind of how I felt, really.
Sounds like me in school, to be honest.
Honestly, it's the worst.
Yeah.
And I'd be having these moments of like, yes, and then no, and then falling in love, and then no. And this happened over about 6-7 months. But I would have seemed as though I had a good handle on it. I think if you just saw me at that time, you'd have thought, oh, he's doing quite well. LJ, my wife, was a little bit more vocal about it, a bit more honest at how she was feeling. And she even said to me at the time, how are you handling this so well? And I was like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Let's just move on. And then this kept coming on. It came to the point where the final house, the offer got accepted. We had the surveys done. We were really getting into the nitty gritty of it. And then it looked like there was some structural damage and all this was happening. And obviously I am parenting 2 kids whilst this is going on, 3 and 1, which are, as you know, tricky ages. Work was ramping up a little bit at that time as well. I had some responsibilities outside of work in different roles that I help out in and volunteer in. So there's a fair few changes coming, and I still would have said I felt fine. But then it got to the point where I came into work, and I remember it was on a Friday. There's a few less people in the office on that day. And I'd sat down at my desk, and something just happened, and I just absolutely wept. I could not stop crying, and that's not like me. I just this overwhelming flow of emotion. I was very grateful it was a Friday and hardly anyone was in, and it was only me in the office at the time. And I remember just having to close the door, and I just like sobbed for a good like half an hour, and I just couldn't stop. And I had to message my manager and say, I need to go home. I'm not okay. And that morning, I would have felt completely fine.
So you felt completely fine right up to that point.
Right up to that point.
And was there something that triggered it? When you sat down at your desk there, was there something that happened that was the straw that broke the camel's back?
I can't pinpoint it. No, I think I just sat there and I just kind of thought about our situation a little bit. We just had some news the day before, we were speaking to the estate agents trying to chase the sellers of this house, and they weren't getting back to us. And I think I was just thinking these things through, and I just had a lot of information coming at me all at once, and then I just went. I just couldn't stop crying. I had to go home. I was basically off sick for the following week, and I just felt as though I was in this constant state of fight or flight. And I tried to explain it to LJ afterwards. I said it felt like I was in a room with someone I've just offended. I've just said something awful, and there's this tension in the air, and I know it's entirely my fault, and I'm being held responsible for it, and I just feel guilty, and I just felt really trapped in that situation. But no one had said anything. There was nothing wrong. I was just completely feeling it. And it was almost like I was trying to avoid imaginary eggshells everywhere. But no one was putting them there.
And before that Friday, had you ever had anything like that? Or was this... Did it catch you off guard completely? Was there anything...
Completely off guard.
So nothing like that ever in your history?
No, not at all. If anything, I would have said, I handle stress very well. And me and LJ always joke that I'm good in a crisis. She's good in the normal day-to-day. Very organised, very, good at having a plan and things like that. But then as soon as stuff happens and it's like, right, we need to focus now, The unknown has happened. I'm quite good in those situations. And I used to work in a mental health hospital as a support worker, where I was used to dealing with 12-hour shifts with different patients who would often throw very difficult things at you, figuratively and literally. And I was quite used to handling that kind of thing. So if anything, I prided myself on being someone who's very good in a...
Like a badge of honor.
Yeah. Rightly or wrongly, I thought, no, I'm good in a crisis. And I've never had a struggle with mental health in the past.
So when you had that moment, did you feel a little bit like almost that string to your bow, that badge of honor, suddenly that thing that you kind of prided yourself on? How did it make you feel for that suddenly to have dissipated in that moment?
Yeah, I was shocked and almost I felt embarrassed. Yeah, I definitely would say I felt embarrassed that this has bowled me over this much. And I would say as well, it took me 2 weeks of a bit of rest, pulling back from different things, to get back to what I would say feeling quite even keel. And for it to take that long, and it wasn't something I could just shrug it off. I couldn't do anything like that. It wasn't something I could just subjectively feel my way out of. That really tripped me up, actually, where, this is actually what a mental health crisis looks like. Crisis is the right word.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed that or found it helpful, please do click the like button. If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about all our latest videos. And finally, if you're in a position right now to support Care for the Family, you can do so following the link in the video description. As a thank you to you, we'll send you a load of resources for you and your family. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.